now. So what are the secrets of startup success in China? My next two guests seem to have cracked the code. Both have been working in the country since the 1990s, each launching several successful technology companies. Fritz Demopoulos started his career in China at News Corp. He went on to found travel website Qunar, China's equivalent of Kayak.com. And he recently sold a majority stake to China's most popular search engine, Baidu. Nick Yang, in 2008, founded his third venture, Wukong, a mobile app recommendation engine. He also took Kongzhong, one of his earlier companies, public on the NASDAQ just 2 years after launching in 2002. Gentlemen, welcome both of you to Bloomberg. Wes, great to have you here on the program. We were speaking earlier with Joe Chen, who had some choice words to say about Jack Ma. What's your view on how Jack Ma spun off this very valuable asset? Do you worry that it casts a bad light on Chinese entrepreneurs as a whole? Nick, let's start with you.
Of course, Jack Ma has been a legend in China in the internet space. He has built a very successful company, Alibaba, including Taobao, which is China's equivalent of eBay. About this issue with Yahoo, of course, Yahoo has been a very early investor for Alibaba, for Jack Ma. I think it's mostly an issue between himself and his early investors. So it's I think only the people who are inside would know the intricate details. We're all on the outside looking, so as much information as you.
Fritz, there have been debates about this in China, though, recently. What are people saying about, especially entrepreneurs, about what happened with the Alibaba situation?
Well, I think on one hand, we rely on investment capital, a range of foreign investors and domestic investors to grow our businesses. And investors are always concerned about transparency, corporate governance, and some of those very important issues. And what happened with Alibaba and Yahoo and SoftBank, and I mean, I don't know the details, and all of us are waiting to see the result. However, if there's an appearance that maybe those developments haven't been as transparent as investors like, that could possibly impact how investors look at the market and how they define risk. And we think that's pretty important.
So many U.S. internet companies have not been able to succeed in China. Tim Chang of Mayfield said earlier he doesn't think a U.S. internet company will ever succeed in China. Nick, why haven't these companies succeeded to break into the China market?
I think there's two different, it almost seems like two different worlds, the China world and the U.S. Western world. So culturally, China has been the most influential culture in East Asia. So that I think it's, for Americans to tap into China, they really have to understand the country, the culture, and the intricacies of doing business in China. So I don't think the American companies, especially the internet companies, are very used to it.
Fritz, you have an interesting view on this as a Westerner who has built several companies in China. What's your view on all these failures, one after another, from U.S. companies?
I think it's important to note, and I think Western companies have to ask themselves, what value do they provide to the market? Is it investment capital? Well, clearly it's not, because, China is flush with cash. Everyone's trying to invest in the country. So a foreign operating company is not going to succeed just because they provide capital. And is it management know-how and expertise? Well, after the financial crisis, I think a lot of people in China started questioning that if, in fact, Western companies actually have, that expertise and good steward of companies and the economy that maybe they should have. Is it technology? Do Western companies bring technology to the table? Well, surprise, we live in an open source world where everything's programmed in Linux. You can download it off the internet. And in fact, almost all the computer science textbooks in China are actually written in English, meaning Chinese programmers, developers, and technologists have the same access to technology that anyone else does. So it becomes, what value do they add? It's a tough question.
Now, Jack Ma of Alibaba has just taken the stage here at the China 2.0 conference at the Stanford Graduate School of Business. Obviously, Jack Ma, one of the most successful Chinese entrepreneurs ever. Nick, what does it take to succeed in China? You guys have cracked the code. What do Chinese companies have to do to build great businesses there? I
think it's, first of all, you really have to understand the market, understand the people, understand the intricacies of the country. So to be able to succeed in China, first you have to be very, very adaptive. So the market environment changes very quickly. The regulatory environment changes very quickly. So the more quickly you can adapt to these changes, the more quickly you can face these competitions and execute the business model. I think that's what it takes to win.
Fritz, if Facebook wasn't blocked in China, would Renren be as big a success? If Sino Weibo, if Twitter wasn't blocked in China, would Sino Weibo be as great a success?
I think so. I mean, maybe they wouldn't have a dominant market share. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Google is not blocked all the time, and their market share is still pretty small. I mean, less than 25%. So if those companies weren't blocked, sure, they'd have some share. But I mean, Joe Chen at Renren and Charles Chow, who runs Sina, which owns Weibo. I mean, these are fantastic entrepreneurs. They're implementing great ideas. They're super creative. I mean, I don't buy the idea that just because a foreign company is blocked is the reason why they're failing in China. There's a range of other reasons, as Nick pointed out: being flexible, being smart, hiring the best teams. I mean, some of these foreign companies, I mean, they hire people I would never hire, and I can't believe they did it.
Is that true of Groupon's joint venture in China right now that's not working out so well, Gaopeng?
Yeah, I mean, it's complicated. I mean, I do know some of the guys there, and I mean, it's kind of interesting, some of the decisions they've made. But I mean, I think with Gaopeng, sure, I think they're retrenching a bit. But I mean, this is an organization that's hired thousands of people, and they've grown very quickly. So I think if they retrench 20%, I mean, I don't think it's a big deal.
And yet, Lasho, China's Groupon, seems to be wildly successful. All right, Fritz Demopoulos, Nick Young, Chinese entrepreneurs who succeeded wildly in the country. Thank you so much for joining us here
Thank you.
on Bloomberg
Thank you.
West.